Well, hello there. Welcome back to the final. I think this is gonna be my final video talking about Toyko Ghoul, at least until it releases, in America. Not this is gonna be the last time I talk about Toyko Ghoul for a while. And this is just gonna be the kind of final review video. I've I've looked at all the cards. I've made my decks. I've actually even tested the decks. Yes, even though I don't have the cards in hand, you can still test the decks if you use proxies, or you can do it on experts, which this the first time I've tried it and it seems to work pretty well. And yes, I can talk about these cards and kind of my thoughts and expectations about Volume 1 and what I hope to see hopefully in Volume 2. Because I'll talk about it later, but really the series is so incomplete. Well, first off, the main thing I was excited for about Tokyo Ghoul was I just wanted Hinami. Again, I mentioned this. This is gonna be not much talking about the series, but more just talking about like what I was expecting. When I first kind of got into Union Arena, I only wanted one. I really wanted one series, and it was Tokyo Ghoul. I mean, they had like Sora Online, which I was down with, and then other shows which I have watched. Like Black Clover and Attack on Titan and One Punch Man. Series that I'm familiar with. But the series that I wanted the most was Tokyo Ghoul, because I don't think Tokyo Ghoul has had other card games. Like I like a lot of other shows and animes and stuff. They already have cards in other games. But when I looked at Tokyo Ghoul cards, there wasn't any cards available that I saw. And I just really wanted. How cool would it be for Tokyo Ghoul to be in Union Arena? Because it makes sense. Tokyo Ghoul is action, and I think action translates well into like a card game, as well as there's just a lot of characters in Tokyo Ghoul. Like there's just so many characters. They fit so many characters into it, and then also the characters look cool, right? It's not just your basic normal characters, but they have there's different stuff because it's fantasy. Because when you have a show that is fantasy, you can kind of experiment with different how characters look and stuff. And then also there's just three distinct time periods in Tokyo Ghoul. So again, Tokyo Ghoul, and then Tokyo Ghoul Route A, and then Tokyo Ghoul Re. So there are three different time periods, and so like you can literally just have one character and change how they look three times. So it's like so much they can do with the series, at least when they translate to Union Arena. So that was gonna be super exciting. And when I watched Tokyo Ghoul, unfortunately I haven't read it yet. I'm not even sure. Is it manga or light novel? I'm not even sure. But my favorite character was Hinami, and I don't want to spoil too much. Does she appear in the later time skips? Who knows? I mean, one quick Google search and you can find out. But I really like Hinami. I think she was like, for me, the MVP of the series. Of course, you have your main character, Ken Kaneki, right? But I really thought that Hinami was my favorite character, and she wasn't even like the major female character, right? I think you can argue that the major female character was Toka, but I just thought I liked what Hinami did throughout the anime, which meant that I don't like what Toka did throughout the anime. I actually wasn't a big fan of Toka because of Hinami and Toka didn't do the same things in the anime, and so that's why I really like Hinami more because of what Toka maybe didn't do. For the most part, right? That being said, the Toka does have the cooler design. I think she is the coolest looking Tokyo Ghoul character. I mean, some might like other characters, but I do like Toka. And her voice actress, I mean, I've already mentioned her voice actress in another video. It's Sora Amamiya, her Japanese voice actress, I should say. And so even though I didn't like Toka as a character, I like her design, and she has one of my favorite Japanese voice actors. Unfortunately for everyone, but fortunately for my wallet, there's no signatures. There are no signatures in at least the 2 stars and 3 stars don't have signatures, which sucks in my opinion, because it's fun having signatures on the cards. It makes them feel more special. But of course, I'm sure certain voice actors or voice actresses would rather not have a signature on a card. And if Union Arena didn't get their permission, then they can't use their signature. And so sadly, Sora Mami is not signed the 2-star Toka, which is good because if she did, I would have to pick her up. I would have to pick up the 2-star Toka. But since there is no signature, then I don't really need to focus on getting the two-star Toka. But yeah, I just really wanted Hinami. I'm like, hopefully Hinami gets a 2-star. Unfortunately, she didn't. I'll talk more about the 2-star briefly. Unfortunately, she didn't get a 2-star, but at least she did get a singular art, like an alternate art card. And then another thing is, this card is really good. I've mentioned it in the deck reviews, but this is, you can't get better as a 0 drop. So Hinami's just fantastic as a card. And so I'm happy that she got an alternate art for a card that I'm actually going to use. So that's good. But yeah, that's basically it. There are a few other characters that I really like in the anime. Of course, you have to like the Ken Kaneki. Of course. How can you not like the Ken Kaneki? But then, yeah. After that, Ken Kaneki, everyone's favorite. I like Hinami. And I also really like Akira. I really like Akira as well. Because, again, if you follow the story, or at least the anime at least, I really like her as well. So those are probably like my top 3 characters. And yeah. But anyways, that's just quick, brief, like, why Toyko Ghoul. That's it. By the way, these alt cards, I took a picture of them from like the Union Arena Twitter or the official website. And for some of these, I took a picture from the video. Unfortunately, my Twitter account is suspended for some reason, so I couldn't scroll down all the way and look at all the alternate arts. So if I'm missing some, I'm sorry. Also, I don't even think all the alternate arts have been revealed yet. Like, these cards just got revealed like very recently. So it was like, unfortunately, not all the cards have been revealed. So if I'm missing some, that's just unlucky. I just have these cards for the video because it's fun to look at the cards, the alternate arts. But anyways, moving away from what I like about Toyko Ghoul, I just want to talk about the decks real quick. Like I mentioned, I tested the decks. There are 7 different decks that are going to be kind of available when Toyko Ghoul drops. And I kind of just want to talk about each of them because I gave each of them a ranking after testing. Basically, I tested them against each other, or I tested them against the, like I mentioned, the Sora Online Green Yuki Asuna deck. That deck, by the way, is like, out of ranking from 1 to 5, 1 being the deck sucks, 5 being the deck is the best. That deck is a solid 3. Maybe some people might even say it's a 2, but I think that deck is pretty okay. At least for Volume 1. When Volume 2 comes out, it becomes a little bit better, not significantly, but it becomes a little bit better. So that deck is like a 3 out of 5. It's okay. But because it's the deck that I've played the most and I've had the most practice with it, I feel like when I play it, it kind of becomes like a 4 out of 5. Not to like toot my own horn, but I think like from my experience, I can make that deck into like a 4 out of 5 type of deck. And so basically, I just pitted that deck up against a bunch of these decks. And here I am to report. I'm going to report that the Toka deck, again, the Toka deck requires you playing Rize. Not this Ken Kaneki though. This Ken Kaneki you don't use. This Rize you do use. And this Toka you do use. The deck isn't very good. I gave it like a 2 out of 5, which is the worst, one of the worst decks in the series, in Volume 1 at least. Because while it's good for aggro, like the Toka can attack twice, and if you combo her with Rize underneath the Kaneki, then you can get a lot of attacks out. And of course you do have your searchers in Uta, which is able to search for both of your raid Kanekis and your raid Toka. That deck, unfortunately, is just hard to set up. Like, it's hard to get all the cards you need. Out of all the decks, even the 7 energy generation deck, every other deck seems way easier to set up than the Toka deck. The Toka deck just seemed impossible to set up. Like I mentioned, I played 5 games, wasn't able to set up a single time. When I say setup, I mean get like Tokas out, get the Ken Kaneki with Rize underneath him out. It was just super difficult. So that deck is pretty bad. It's 2 out of 5. Again, maybe my version is just bad. Disclaimer, my versions could be bad, and I haven't really tested these decks that much. But From what I've played with, that deck wasn't very good. Purple Koniki. Purple Koniki came out as a surprise. You would assume that a card that costs 12 energy is hard to summon. Well, believe it or not, this deck was easier to get out. Like, Ken Kaneki was easier to get out than like a Ray Ken Kaneki with Rize underneath. Like, it wasn't very hard to get the 12 drop Ken Kaneki out. And, you use other cards. And that deck ended up being pretty fun because it's actually pretty consistent to get stuff out. Because you have a lot of cards that can help send stuff into the outside area. And that deck just ended up being pretty good. 3 out of 5. So again, not the greatest, because even though it's easy to get out the 12 drop Ken Kaneki, it's very all or nothing. Like, I remember getting out, I summoned 2 12 drop Ken Kanekis, and then against myself, I was able to remove both of him because I had 2 specials in hand, and so I just used 2 specials to remove both 12 drop Ken Kanekis that were summoned on 1 turn, and then, yeah, it wasn't the greatest. But it's easy to get him out. The Shu deck, similarly, is a 3 out of 5. He, like as suspected, late game he becomes really good because you're summoning a card that basically it costs 1 action point and you can send him to active. And 4000 BP, that's super strong. Of course, you have removal with the Raid Shu himself. The only problem with this deck is that while the late game is really strong, and the mid game can be strong if you use Shu as removal, I found the early game to be not great because the 4 drop non-raid Shu is really not the greatest early game. You can't really recycle him, you can't really send him to active in the early game. But late game, he becomes super strong. And yeah, that's kind of it about like the Toyko Ghoul purple ones. Again, 2 of the decks are 3 out of 5 in my opinion, 1 deck is 2 out of 5. So they're okay. When it comes to red, again, I don't have that many red cards. It's probably because like I was suspended from Twitter and I couldn't scroll that far. I'm sorry, guys. The red Kaneki and Ayato deck, not very good. Again, we're manipulating our life so that we can hopefully have a strong early game. Because when you draw your life, you're aiming to have a really strong early game, bunch of cards in hand, very strong attacks and stuff like that. And then you even have negate impacts, which can help with survivability. Some negate impact options. But I just ended up finding the deck not being very, very strong. Because even though, again, it's incredibly aggro, it's just life manipulation. Now, I might just not be good at life manipulation decks. But yeah, it wasn't very good. I found it to be like a 2 out of 5. Not very good. On the other hand, the Juzo deck, the red CCG deck, that deck was incredible. I tested that deck out and no decks can really match. That Sword Art Online deck that I played against it, I would lose every time. It was like the worst matchup. That with my Sword Art Online deck, it's impossible to beat the red Juzo deck. You just have such good options. You have removal, which is free. You have an incredible draw engine with Akira and Amon, Raid Amon. And then late game, I don't have him here. I'm sure he's going to be an alt art. But you have the 12 drop Big Boy Arima. So just super strong. You have everything you need. You have impacts. You have double damage. You have the removal. You have the draw power. That deck felt super consistent as well. And a lot of action point manipulation as well, because you're able to play stuff for free or you're able to get extra action points. So super strong. That deck is a 5 out of 5 in my opinion. I think that that's easily the strongest deck out of the Toyko Ghoul series. I'm not sure how strong it is compared to other, other shows or other like IPs. But in terms of Toyko Ghoul, the red CCG deck is definitely the strongest. I will say though, it does definitely have a weakness in my opinion. And the weakness is 5,000 attackers. 5,000 BP attackers, you cannot remove them with Juzo. So if you can't remove them with Juzo, you have to use your owl suppression operation on them. So it's pretty tough. Also, you need to set up. You need to have like 8 cards on board, and you need to really rely on your Almond giving you stuff. So Snipe, I can see Snipe being really good against this deck. Even though this deck is a 5 out of 5, if you have Snipe, you can kind of snipe the Almonds. And if you keep their card count low, I can see how you can control this deck if you have Snipe. I've never played with a Snipe deck before, but I'm guessing Snipe is really good against Red Juzo. But I still think that deck is a 5 out of 5. When it comes to the yellow decks, surprisingly, the Arima deck isn't very bad. The Arima deck is actually pretty fun because you have a lot of energy production. Like, you need to summon him straight 7. You need to have straight 7 energy on your board to summon this guy. And he ends up being pretty easy to summon because I think it's easy to get 7 energy. Way easier to get 7 energy than set up Toka and Rize. Like, honestly, it felt a lot easier. Again, I don't have him here, but there is a raid Juzo, a raid yellow Juzo, who is also removal and impact. So that deck has, removal, has impact, has your big boy 5000 BP. So that deck is pretty strong too. It's like a diet version of the red Juzo deck. But it's definitely kind of a different play style. That deck, I say, is like a 3 out of 5 as well. You have strong cards. Unfortunately, I noticed that the draw power in that deck isn't good. Even though Arima does literally have a draw effect, I just found that the draw power in that deck isn't really strong. And then the last deck was the yellow Model Squad deck. So on X Burst, they labeled it as Model Squad, but if you look at these cards, it's the Kink Squad. So it's actually the Kink Squad. I call it Kink Squad more than the Model Squad. But then I even go further and say it's the Kinky Squad. Yeah, that deck is super fun. Really strong draw power. It's really easy to spam your board. Psycho is incredibly good in that deck. She can copy anyone's ability, so you really want a bunch of Psychos. And she's not a raid, so you don't need to raid with her. She only costs 3 energy, and so you can summon her really early, and then you can have her have so much BP. She can have 5,000 BP on her own, but then you can bump that up to 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 pretty easy. And so I haven't seen a deck that you can pump up a card as strong as this deck. Again, I haven't played much, but yeah, Psycho can get really high in the numbers. I thought the deck was a lot better than it was because apparently you can only use Akira's ability once per turn. So like even if you have multiple Akiras, you can only use that ability once per turn. But I still never found an issue about not having enough action points. You'll always have enough action points to do what you want to do. So the deck is super consistent, super fun. It's only a 3 out of 3 or a 3 out of 5 though. And I say that because you don't really have removal, right? You don't have any 5,000 bodies. Like there are a lot of decks with 5,000 bodies in Toyko Ghoul, all right? So not having 5,000 body kind of sucks. You don't have any damage 2. Damage 2 kind of counts as removal because if you have damage 2, your opponent's most likely going to block that attack. And so, it's kind of like removal where you remove something. Actually, I don't think that guy has damage 2. I think this guy has damage 2. And then that deck also doesn't have double attack. And so sometimes double attack also counts as removal because your opponent if you have so many double attacks, then your opponent's going to end up wanting to block something. And so if you don't have any double attacks, it's pretty weak. So this deck ends up falling flat, in my opinion, just because you don't have cards that can remove, right? You don't have the removal Juzos, and you end up just lacking power and no double attacks, no damage too. You're able to get a big board, but the board isn't very strong. So yeah, that's kind of it about the decks. Again, the best deck is the red Juzo raid deck. I think super strong. And then the worst deck is probably the Toka deck, unfortunately, and the red Kaneki deck. Not the greatest. Not the greatest. I've already mentioned Hinami. I'm happy that she got an alt, but I do want to shout out one more character that I think kind of got shafted, which was Band-Aid Girl. Band-Aid Girl only made 2 appearances. She is a 0 drop for the red Kaneki deck, and honestly, not very good. Like I did not want to use Ito, I think her name was. I did not want to use her because I would rather use the draw 1, discard 1 CCG guy. And she appeared on Algiri Tree. Like there's an Algiri Tree, I think field card, and she appears on that. What upsets me is that I think Band-Aid Girl is a very important character, like super important, especially in, you know, where she kind of first makes her appearance in Tokyo Ghoul Route A. I think she's a very important character, but like she only got 1 card. So it's like that character easily could have been a 2-star, but they only made her 1-star. And so yeah, I feel like in Tokyo Ghoul there's so many characters that deserved a 2-star. Like I mentioned, I think Amon deserves a 2-star more than Akira. Now that I look into it, it's the Akira from Tokyo Ghoul Ri, who again, she is like the mom of the King Squad. So it makes sense that sure, give her the 2-star, right? Because every color needs a 2-star, or every color needs multiple 2-stars. I think red, I don't even know who the other 2-star for red is. If it's not Ayato, then who else was it? Oh, of course, Red Juzo. Regardless, what was I saying? Yes. The one of the major things that I think is missing from this, volume 1 at least, is you notice how for Tokyo Ghoul Ri, there aren't any, like, everyone's CCG. So there's no ghouls. Now, wait a minute. You're like, wait, these are CCG characters, but some of them have red eyes. So, are you telling me? Yeah, so maybe there are, like, spoilers. Maybe there are ghouls associated with the CCG, but there are no, like, normal ghoul cards for Tokyo Ghoul Ri, which I think is super disappointing. Basically, they're missing, like, half the characters. I mean, more than half the characters, in my opinion, for Tokyo Ghoul Ri. In Tokyo Ghoul Normal and Tokyo Ghoul Route A, I think they kind of covered it for the most part. Again, there's a few characters that I think deserve more, at least in Tokyo Ghoul Route A. But I hope for Volume 2, they kind of, or I'm sure for Volume 2, if they add a new color, which is going to be green or blue, I really hope that whatever they add for green and blue is just going to be a bunch of the ghoul characters from Tokyo Ghoul Ri. Tokyo Ghoul Ri is actually split into 2 parts. There's like the first 12 episodes and then the last 12 episodes. And none of these characters are, I mean, these characters, of course, they appear in the second 12 batch of episodes. But there might have been some changes. And so there's a lot missing. At least for the Tokyo Ghoul Union Arena, there's a lot missing in terms of the ghouls from Tokyo Ghoul Ri. So for sure, I think if they add a new color, blue or green, it's going to be featuring a lot of the Tokyo Ghoul Ri characters, especially the ghouls. But there could be other non-ghoul characters associated as well. And yeah, that's what I'm excited for Volume 2. I think Volume 2 is definitely going to happen because I hope it's Tokyo Ghoul Volume 1 is popular enough that they do a Volume 2, and I hope Volume 2 is already in the works because, again, we're missing so many characters, and I would love to see a Hinami 2-star. I mean, just do it. Just give us the 2-star Hinami. I want it. And hopefully there's signatures as well. I mean, we didn't get signatures for Volume 1, but hopefully we do get signatures for Volume 2. And if they release a alternate art of Toka, which has a signature, then I'm going to need to support Sora Mamiya with that one, right? And I think that's it. So yeah, at this point, I'm excited for Volume 1. I'm already looking forward for Volume 2, guys. Like for Volume 2, I'm expecting a lot more from Tokyo Ghoul Ri because that's time-wise, that's the end. So all the characters who haven't died have, matured and grown, and that's kind of their final form. And if they died, well, they died. So, but yeah, that's it. That's it. I'm excited. When Volume 1 comes out, I'm gonna buy some cards. Let's just say that. And when Volume 2 gets announced, oh, you bet I'm gonna be refreshing Union Arena website every morning, like I did for Volume 1. So thank you for watching You're Beautiful the Way You Are. That's kind of my final review of the Toyko Ghoul Volume 1, Union Arena. I think it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be good, and I'm already looking forward for Volume 2. So yeah, thank you for watching You're Beautiful the Way You Are, and I'll catch you in the next video.